Sarah.
Right.
So this presentation is for you two because everyone else pretty much knows all of this.
I don't know any of it.
Right. So the whole purpose of this presentation is to help you have discussions with people who are looking to purchase property in Las Vegas, and they go, "Hey, Sarah, I want to buy a property and I want to make it a short-term rental."
Right.
So by attending this thing, you're going to know all the answers to their questions and be able to respond in an intelligent manner and make you look like a rock star. So, all right, so we'll get started. All right, here's all my propaganda, my credentials, and so on. So we're going to get to it. Okay, I'm going to do a brief history on short-term rentals. So before 2017, back when Mike here was operating, Vrbo was really come on in. Vrbo was really the dominant player in that arena of short-term rentals. And in fact, I can remember when we traveled, we would reach out to the Vrbos to book a place, and about half the time the owners wouldn't even respond. So Airbnb came in and cleaned their clock, essentially because Airbnb created a feedback system for both owners and guests. So the real reason why Airbnb, in my opinion, just killed Vrbo is because they provided a feedback system. They held owners responsible or accountable. So if you're an Airbnb owner and you don't respond to somebody, you get a bad rating and people stop coming. All right. So Airbnb took off starting in 2017, and then in 2021, it got crazy, especially here in Clark County. I would call it the party years. People partying in the yards and shootings, and it got really out of control, especially during COVID. And Barb, who's on with us tonight, she was the one that had to deal with all these naughty guests during COVID. So in response to all these naughty guests, the government started paying attention. In 2019, the Township of Las Vegas was the first to come out with a set of rules. And they got flooded with applications, and then they backpedaled. Las Vegas said, "Oh my God, this is out of control." So they rescinded their rules, grandfathered the ones that already applied, and then said, "Okay, we're going to come up with a new set of rules." And we'll get to that in a second. Henderson saw what Las Vegas did and goes, we'll do it a little bit better. So Henderson came up with some pretty reasonable rules, in my opinion. And then North Las Vegas was the next to come up with rules. And I feel, in my opinion, North Las Vegas rules are even better than Henderson rules. What my favorite part about North Las Vegas is they're kind of loosey-goosey on renewals. You don't have to have an inspection and all these other things that are difficult to do that are required in Henderson. So in 2021, the state legislature issued statewide rules, which conflicted with all the other cities, which made it even more confusing. And then in 2022, Clark County came out with a set of rules that are beyond ridiculous. By the way, this is all a QR code and link at the end.
Oh, perfect.
So if you get lost, don't. And I'm also recording it.
Oh, nice.
For the 37 other people that said they're going to be here, they didn't. Okay. And so where we are today is there's this huge legal battle between Clark County and another short-term rental association that we know that has filed a lawsuit on constitutional grounds. Now, what happens with that is anyone's guess. But in summary, in Clark County, the rules are in limbo. So we have a participant here this evening who applied, right,
Yes.
Essie?
Yes.
And it went, yeah, it's crickets, right?
Crickets, that's true.
Crickets,
Yes,
yeah.
and I've heard that they sent out denial letters to people who didn't get approved for whatever reason.
So that means you're still in the running.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Clark County is being very mysterious about who is going to make it and who isn't. So the reason why you want to know this, so when a buyer calls you and says, I want to buy a short-term rental, it's very important that you tell them it's important to know what jurisdiction they're going to be buying in. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Las Vegas already has their rules
Yeah,
and the county is the one that the lawsuit's with.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. So here's another thing that you need to be aware of or understand, because when someone calls you and says, I want to buy an Airbnb, it's not specific enough. Okay. So first, we're going to just talk about lease types. If the lease is less than 30 days, it's considered a short-term rental. If it's between 30 days and a year, it's called a medium term or mid-term rental. And then, of course, everyone and their grandmother knows what a long-term lease is. That's a long-term rental. So there are different websites or different platforms that cater to these different lease types. So everyone, for example, is familiar with Zillow and Realtor.com and all those. Those cater to medium-term and long-term leases. On the short term, you've got Airbnb, which is the gorilla in the room, followed by Vrbo, and then followed by Furnish Finders. And at the end of my presentation, I'm going to introduce you to a whole new animal called Pad Split. Pad Split is basically geared to get around all of these government rules. Okay. So that's terminology that you need to be aware of when you're having a conversation with your buyers. We're going to briefly go over the 4 different set of rules. So how do you know what jurisdiction that property is in? So what you do is you go to tax records and you look up the city or incorporated town that's located. Unless it says Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, or Henderson, it's Clark County, right? So if you see Paradise or Whitney or Sunrise or something you've never heard of before, what's the one yours is in Spring Valley, right? Spring Valley. So there's a bunch of Green Valley. There's a bunch of other names for properties that don't reside in an incorporated city.
Don't they call those townships, all those little ones like
Yes, thank you.
Enterprise?
My brain was not working. It's called
Yeah,
townships. Yeah.
Townships. Okay,
Yep. Thanks, Sarah.
sure.
All right, so you got to know what jurisdiction it is, and then so we're going to go through all the jurisdictions so that you're an expert. Las Vegas is this weird jurisdiction. It's like an island with little lakes inside of it, and the lakes in the side are Clark County.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
No way.
Yes, what?
that's crazy.
It is crazy.
And they're allowed to do that.
Oh, I did not.
It's always been that way.
Okay.
Just people don't know that. But here's the thing about Las Vegas. In order to get a license, the owner has to live at the property, which essentially eliminates any potential investor, right? It's got to be a 660-foot minimum from another licensed place, 2,000 yards from a casino, no HOA, and you're taxed at 13%.
Jim, did you confirm it's 2,000 yards?
It's
from the
2,000
casino?
feet.
Okay.
Thank you. I forgot to update the slide.
You updated the 660.
I did.
Yeah.
But I'm getting old.
So 2,000 feet from a casino,
Right.
not yards.
Yep.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, thanks.
So in Las Vegas, you have to live there, so you can only rent a room?
Correct.
Or a casita, or
Exactly.
what other?
Home share is what that's called.
Yeah.
Technically, right.
Yeah.
Nobody's.
Now there are about 100 to 200 licensed short-term rentals in Las Vegas that made it under the wire before they backpedaled.
And how
So
many
those-
did you say there was?
About 200.
About 200. Okay, so
And
there's
those-
legal.
Those don't have those prerequisites.
Correct. They were
Okay.
already grandfathered in.
I get you.
Now, we actually happen to manage one of those things downtown.
Are you are they transferable?
No.
That was
Yeah,
one-
yeah,
that's one
the government
express.
the government says, let's figure out other ways to shut this down. And that's the case on all jurisdictions.
Okay.
Some people try to get clever by putting it in an LLC, and then, the government goes, no, we know what you're up to. Okay. North Las Vegas, a little bit simpler boundary. Again, 660-foot minimum, no HOA, 13%. Depending on the mood of the gal that answers the phone, she will give you an answer if that property would be licensable.
Does it have that casino factor too?
It does,
Across the board, it's still not
Yeah.
more than 2,000 feet.
correct. Now, there are some holes there. In fact, I was talking to an investor today that found a hole. So if you find that property that's licensable, that thing is worth $1 million because you get a license for it.
And you mean a hole just because it fits the criteria and boom, he now can buy that and sell it as a possible Airbnb.
Right. It's not an NHOA. It's
Right.
not close to another one.
Out of curiosity, do you, based on how many you manage, do you get, are they as, booked as they would be if they were closer to the strip? It feels like North Las Vegas is kind of far away. Are people still booking North Las
Yes,
Vegas?
everything's a function of price.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have, my wife and I have a licensed short-term rental in North Las Vegas, and Barb does really well with it.
Okay,
I forget the type of people,
so maybe they're not just strip people, they're coming for
yeah, most
hiking or whatever.
people that do short-term rentals aren't necessarily your casino type.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. The next one is Henderson. Henderson got very techno with their process. What they did is they have the same requirements, same casino requirements, Sarah. But they have an interactive map, which is very awesome.
Mhm.
So if you click on this interactive map, you can look for holes. You and 10,000 other people are looking for holes. Okay.
So those are all active, all the greens are active
The-
Airbnbs.
Mhm, and the
And they're
reds,
properly licensed.
that's properly licensed.
Let's use the word short-term rental, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
They're not Airbnb.
Yeah, if you,
Airbnb is a company.
Company for short-term. rentals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so many people do that, and it's the wrong thing to say.
It's like saying
Okay.
tissue and Kleenex.
right,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. The red, by the way, means it's in progress. Okay,
So the red in between so the green circle, isn't that the 1,000,
660 foot.
is it 660 in Henderson?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so the red in between the two greens,
It's like
that
it
would
overlaps it.
qualify even though it overlaps?
What happened was when they opened it up for licensing, they didn't require that minimum for the first couple of months, and then they shut that down. That's why you have overlap.
So right now, that would not qualify then.
Correct. This is an old screenshot, so they're probably all green now. I left it up there in case there
But
was
they'll
some
take
red.
your application nonetheless.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
And
And
what's the
your
fee
fee.
for the application now?
I think they're all $1,000.
Are you serious?
And it's non-refundable.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah,
And the renewals are close to $1,000?
Yep.
Okay.
plus the 13%.
Well, so they're making some serious dough on this.
Yeah.
It's because they think all short-term rental owners are making buckets of money.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is not true, but that's another story. Okay, now we get into Clark County. It's a huge mess. So the number one problem is it's a lottery. And they haven't been able to answer anyone's question as to what happens if two people are within 660 feet, right? So like, you have the casino, you have no septic. Oh, my favorite is no septic. Really
Those are the people who are half acres, the big lots.
totally pisses me off because I've got a casita that's on septic and I can't do it. Rawr.
Mm.
That's how they get you to convert. The
It's-
city sewer. that's
It's
what they
not,
want.
it's not practical. It would cost me a couple $100,000 to
Yeah.
connect. All right, so there are a lot of pirates in the ocean of Clark County right now that are not licensed.
And is anybody clamping down on that?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
the county's doing whack-a-mole.
okay.
Yeah, they're,
So are they actually shutting them down or they're like, hey, too bad, we're just waiting for this hot mess.
no,
to
they're
figure
shutting
out."
them down.
Oh, they are.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We got shut down.
And then also too,
Mhm.
from what I know is Airbnb won't let you advertise on their site without your license number.
No, you can still.
Oh, you can?
You can, they
Oh,
just
cause they
say,
shut me down because I forgot to add my new license number.
Are you in Henderson?
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh.
Now, why they picked Henderson's a mystery.
huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All of a sudden I couldn't book anything for more than 30 days. I was like, what the?
They
And
did
then
that to
I-
Henderson, but they didn't do it to Las Vegas or Clark County or North Las Vegas.
Are other states having these same problems or is it just?
Oh,
us?
it's across the board.
It's across the
It's,
nation.
and also across the world,
Okay,
Paris is
Yeah.
having issues and
okay.
so, anyway, that's how that's happening. So what is my next slide? Next slide is, okay, so here's a broad stroke response to people who call you and go, I want to buy a short-term rental, help me out. So your first response is it's nearly impossible to get a short-term rental, a license for a short-term rental. Midterm rentals make about as much money as a long-term rental. It costs about 15 grand to furnish a 322 midterm. It makes no financial sense to buy a house or a condo and use it as a vacation home plus a midterm rental. We run into this problem all the time. We get people that call us every 2 weeks. I just bought a condo. I want to make it a short-term rental and I want to stay there between June and August. And I'm like, okay, that's nice, but you're not going to make any money. What do you mean? So we have this conversation. A lot of the people who purchase a house making a midterm rental usually give up. In fact, Barb just closed a property last week. She had it as a midterm rental up in the Northwest, and it was bleeding cash. And so the owner finally said, I'm done.
It was bleeding cash because it wasn't getting rented for as high of a price they needed.
That's right. And, you have utilities, you've
Yeah.
got,
Mm-hmm.
faucets leaking. I mean, it goes on and on, right?
People, and also people looking for a midterm rental don't have the budget, the monthly budget that a short-term rental will
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
incur.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
They want to pay long-term rental rates.
Exactly.
But they want it furnished and you pay all the utilities.
Exactly. Yeah. And plus the other thing is there's a flood of midterms on the market right now, which is not helping. Because they got caught by the county
Mm.
and they're like, oh my God, now what I'm gonna do? So there's a bunch of midterms on the market. And I always tell investors, you're better off getting a long-term rental and then use that income to stay at the Bellagio.
That's okay.
They love that one. And then, by the way, new purchases of long-term rentals are terrible returns. Most of these are less than 4%. Which is kind of sad because every 2 weeks we get someone who just bought a house and they think they're going to be making bank. And I go, when did you buy it? Okay, let's just stop right there. You're going to be losing money. All right. So here is why midterm rentals are not profitable, are not as profitable. Once you factor in vacancies, repairs, utilities, taxes, the 13% that the short-term platforms require I mean, are the, I'm sorry, take that back, rewind. The repairs, utilities, taxes, HOA fees and so on, you get eaten. Then a lot of times what happens is the midterm folks give up, make it a long-term rental, and then that furniture slowly gets eaten, right? You know, the couch gets worn and I had a knockdown drag out with an investor years ago. You know, he had furniture in that short-term, that long-term rental. First, it was a short-term, got busted. Then it was a midterm. Then it was a long-term, and that couch and bed had been there almost a decade. And he was like, what do you mean it's not, really? So that was the end of that. So anyway.
What was that last one? Said Airbnb has a glitch.
Airbnb has a glitch on a lot of your Henderson properties
What is that?
on the midterm. In other
Oh.
words, they'll take the 13%
Oh, but they're.
and they don't give it to Henderson and they don't give it to you.
Oh,
They
my
just
God.
keep it.
oh, geez.
Yeah.
And then does the homeowner get tagged the 13%?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though they can prove that it was given to
Yeah.
another. company?
Yeah. So I think Stephanie was the one that brought this up.
Okay.
One of our
Because you don't have to pay 13% if it's a midterm. Only short term is charged the 13.
correct,
Yeah.
but Airbnb takes it anyway.
So don't have it on Airbnb if you made a term.
Precisely. All right. So this is something you should be aware because you're going to run into pirates all day long. Okay. Most pirates get caught within 2 years. One of our clients set a record at, what was it here? 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
It's the neighbors that snitch, you know?
Yeah, we got shut down after one booking,
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
and it was a friend of mine
Oh,
who
no.
I hosted.
Um,
Always the neighbors.
yeah, so then the code enforcement, I love Clark County code enforcement. Now they've got like bulletproof vests and
Oh my God.
guns and
Oh, yeah. They're serious.
they look like SWAT.
I've seen them in action. I've seen them in
Yeah,
action on my block.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah,
That's crazy.
one came to my casita a couple of months ago, and anyway, that was kind of entertaining. So you have 30 days to shut down. If you don't, it's $1,000 each day after that, so game over. Now, we have run into people, we've heard actually, in the news that they told the government to pound sand.
Okay.
And they kept operating. And there's $100,000 liens on the property. And now they're worthless.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're able to find a hole in Henderson or North Las Vegas, or Clark County suddenly becomes reasonable, here are the tips that you want to come to if that ever happens. Can't be in an HOA. You want to stay away from those the large houses, right? Those party houses. You want to stay away from those. You want to do your base bread and butter 322s. Single story, newer homes, landscaping, super simple, cactus and rock. Jacuzzis, pools and jacuzzis. We have a love-hate relationship. We have a jacuzzi in one of ours, and every week we are playing with that thing. Mike?
Yeah, they are a nightmare, but people want them and
Yeah.
they use them. People want a pool. If you don't have a pool in summertime, your demographic and your calendar is gonna suffer.
From an investment perspective, it's a wash. Tile or vinyl wood laminate is what you want to go with. Garage is a bonus, but not a requirement. But you want to make sure you have ample parking and not in front of neighbors. So those are your tips. All right. Managing a short-term rental or a midterm rental. we have discovered a lot of people that do self-managing, get their butt handed to them with professional rent dodgers. Because there are people out there that prey on amateurs. And in the property management field, we know that, right? We get people that call us, is this professionally managed? And they click, they hang up because they know we're not going to mess around. Now, professional management typically pays for itself. Barb, for example, who manages all of our short-term and midterm rentals, she's in front of the computer 8 hours a day, dialing in the numbers, having people come in, making it prices ridiculously high during EDC. So typically a professional manager will get more money than if someone manages it themselves, typically. And if you do want to hire someone to manage it, I recommend you get someone who is a super host. Because some people, when they book an Airbnb, they only do super hosts. So for example, Barb and I, when we travel, we only do super hosts because we know we're going to get a consistent experience. When we go off non-super hosts, it's a box of chocolates.
How do you know if you have a super host?
So when you go on Airbnb and you look up a host, there'll be a little emblem on them. It says super host.
Okay.
So if you are managing somebody's short-term rental, do you have to be permitted through the real estate division as a property manager?
The way you can get away without a license as long as you don't do leases, you don't collect money, and you don't do maintenance.
And a short-term rental, you would be oh, no, because Airbnb would be collecting.
Correct.
Oh,
So you are what they call a co-host.
oh, okay,
So you would log in as a co-host. Your owner would be your host.
sure.
You're the co-host, and you do things like meeting them and things like that.
Yeah.
But technically, you can't collect money. You can't act like a property manager.
So as a licensed realtor, you can co-host.
No problem, all day long.
Did not know
But the
that.
minute you take money,
Yeah.
you're toast.
And no leases, don't touch anything.
Right.
Okay. Good to know.
There are a lot of co-hosts out there, by the way.
Yeah.
Quick overview on short-term and midterm platforms. Kind of covered some of these. Furnish Finders is kind of this weird middle ground. We advertise in Furnish Finders, but we don't use it extensively because they're not tied into the calendars. And if you manage a lot of short-term rentals or midterm rentals, that becomes a nightmare because if someone books it and they need that date, it becomes a nightmare. I think there's a lot of myths associated with Furnish Finders, aka traveling nurses. A lot of people, I get a call every 2 weeks. Oh yeah, I want to have this short-term and midterm rental for all these traveling nurses because they believe like there's a herd of traveling nurses that travel around. There's not a herd, right? I think in the last 6 months we've booked maybe 1 or 2.
And they don't pay above.
Right, and they're cheap and they're overrated is what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the midterm rental, specifically speaking, furnishfinders.com, their budget is low. Low.
Yeah. So that whole traveling nurses is a myth that needs to be killed because it's not.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a myth. Like leprechauns, because I heard of leprechauns out there. All right. So what are some alternatives? Now, I chatted a little bit about this when I was in front of a bunch of other brokers last week.
And all our jaws dropped.
Yeah. So there's a thing called PadSplit. It's a platform that caters to room shares. So room shares is another word for having a house and you're renting each different room. Okay. There's different ways of doing room shares. The old school way is you put it on Craigslist, bedroom for rent, $600, utilities included or whatever. Okay. Facebook Marketplace is another venue for that. Pad Split reached out to us 2 years ago and said, Jim, we read your reviews. You look like a character. We're looking for someone to manage. We're going to enter the Las Vegas market. They started in Atlanta, by the way. We're going to enter in Las Vegas, and we need somebody who knows how to do this. Are you interested? And I'm like, sure. I'm open-minded. Let's check it out. Let's do it. And then they said, this is where the property is located. And I'm like, really? 4 bedrooms on Lake Mead and Owens.
Great.
And it's like ground zero. Now, the good news is I used to manage a lot of properties in that area. So I'm completely familiar with that neighborhood. And I'm like, well, let's do it. And we've been managing that property for almost 2 years, and that thing prints money. And I didn't mention it to any of my investors because I was so suspicious. I'm like, there's no way these people are going to rent that room in that neighborhood without a living room. There's no way this is going to happen. And I was completely wrong. So
they don't get to share the common space?
well, let me tell you. Here are the two. Let's start off with some disadvantages. Okay, number one is the house has to be chopped up in Frankenstein.
Did you coin that one?
Of course,
It's a perfect one.
yes. These require skill. Your tenants, you have no idea. There is no screening. You get a text. Susie is moving in tomorrow. I'm like, okay. I'm always battling the thermostat. You have 4 people who can't agree to the temperature.
Oh.
Okay. And then my thing that I hate the most about it is their accounting is terrible. I had to evict a tenant a couple weeks ago. And of course, when you go to eviction court, you have to have your ducks in a row because they'll throw you out if you don't have it together. And so I had to take their ridiculous 4-page spreadsheet and boil it down to something the judge could wrap his mind around. So maybe they'll fix that. So let's talk about a Frankenstein. This is just your typical existing 4-bedroom that you're going to convert into a 5-bedroom by taking out that living room, putting sheetrock in there and a door.
So that becomes a pretty large room then.
Right.
But no ensuite because they will have to share that middle bath.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm gonna show you some examples, real examples of this in a second.
Does it have to be a proper bedroom, like with a window and you need
Yes.
to have the closet?
That's a great point. I was talking to an investor 5 months ago or 6 months ago who wanted the Frankenstein one without an opening. And I said I wouldn't do it.
Without an opening, what do you
For,
mean?
for safety reasons, you have to have an exit, right, with a window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it didn't have a window.
it didn't have a window.
Gotcha.
And I'm like,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
thing burns down. I'm in,
Mhm.
Or a closet, I'm sure you can just add an armoire or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to have a closet.
yeah, you don't have to have in this environment.
They took that rule out.
A dresser would be.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What
Yeah,
does
you
it-
don't have to have a closet. You have to have a window. You don't have to have a closet.
Oh, thanks,
They
Sarah.
took that out about 5 months ago, 5 months ago.
Wow, look, I learned something tonight.
Okay.
Now here's the jaw-dropping part. They make almost double a long-term rental.
So is the goal to remove the living common space so that you can get more money because you're making a 5th bedroom?
And you get rid of conflict.
Oh.
So they're not all sitting in the living room arguing over what's on television. they're only going there to eat and sleep.
Hmm.
So the one that I manage in the hood,
Hmm.
it's got a kitchen, a table with 2 chairs.
No commingling in here. And are they all furnished? Do you have to furnish them?
Yes, but that's not the end
Yeah,
of the world.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, another bonus is even if you get a naughty tenant or a naughty guest, however you describe it, the trash out is nothing to it.
This is one.
You've already got, it's only your furniture, and if you buy sturdy stuff, they're not going to really hurt it.
And are these midterm, long-term?
Great question. I didn't address that on a slide. So what PadSplit did, well, first of all the terminology gets shaken up. They're not guests, they're members.
Hmm.
Okay.
Love it.
Because they're members of PadSplit.
They're members of PadSplit. God forbid a judge asked me about the lease because in that lease, there is nothing about start or end dates.
Hmm.
I'm already confused.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, oh my God, please.
Did you have to supply the lease?
Of course, whenever you do an eviction,
And the judge didn't say anything?
judge didn't say anything.
Wow,
I know.
okay.
He's not reading it, he's
That's-
just wanting to know that you have it.
And I'm like,
Interesting, because there's no start and no end.
Yeah,
Okay.
so anyway, people are members, they're not tenants. That's number one. Number two is the lease or the membership is monthly, but guests pay weekly.
And they are paying, it's not like they're not subsidized. Like, it's not like Section 8 that
No.
they get paid. They have to come up with the money.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they pay PadSplit.
Okay.
So, yeah, so they pay PadSplit, like Airbnb. They take their cut and then they give you the rest. And their late fees are brutal. After I did the whole exercise of chewing through this spreadsheet, my owner made like $1,500 in late fees
For one room.
for one room.
Holy moly.
I know. I thought, oh my God, hope that judge doesn't see that either.
Yeah, well, it's weird because it wouldn't fall under the same guidelines of the 5%.
He didn't say anything. I didn't ask.
Right. So
We got rid of him.
Gotcha.
So, and then I had another naughty tenant in that hood who was doing ecstasy and meth.
Right.
And so he required a little bit of encouraging to leave. So this is why you have to have some experience with.
So if that would normally rent for 2,000, can the owner anticipate making 4?
Well, some months she was making $4,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And then you'll tell us what the requirements are as far as, is there an HOA, no HOA, parking?
No problem.
There's nothing. But they chose to go in the hood because they got a good deal on a property?
Yeah.
But literally, I could find a property that fit the criteria within an HOA and should not have any issues.
So is the owner the one that becomes associated with PadSplit and then PadSplit hired you to manage it?
That's how it started off.
Okay,
So now I'm a preferred vendor for PadSplit.
okay.
So when people sign on and do a PadSplit, I'm like one of 3 or 4 preferred vendors.
So if I bought a property and I wanted to make it PadSplit, I could literally give it to you after I made it all right,
You
and
could
then
do
you
it.
would manage it.
Yeah, but you could do it. You know how to do this.
Well, I know, but I'm kind of just trying to figure out
I'll
just
give,
how to make money.
I'll,
I don't have to deal with it.
Oh, yeah. yeah, I'll walk you through it. You can do it. So here are the tips that you want to give your buyers before they go down this path. Number one is it's not recommended for amateurs. You know, you have those buyers that want the pet egg. Oh my God, everything's gotta be perfect. That person will drive you to drinking. You don't want that person. You want some seasoned, rough around the edges investor who doesn't give a crap what it looks like. Okay. The buyer needs to be willing to Frankenstein the house. Because if you don't Frankenstein it, it not only makes less money, but you as a property manager got to deal with who's watching TV. Okay. Single story, older existing Frankensteins are the best. You know, the ones that have the converted garage, you know, the bars in the windows, you know, the one like, what? Those are the best ones. You want the ones that are centrally located near bus lines. Half those people don't have a car.
Mm.
The newer ones in Southern Highlands, you know, it's got 800 square feet of wide open space, works against you. Because now you're creating you're creating a way for everyone to get together and have pitchforks and torches against you. Okay. Tips on managing a pad split. You absolutely need to have multifamily experience because there's a lot of dynamics involved with tenants. You need to be familiar with the eviction process. You are going to be evicting people. And then you need to be able to get your hands on that property too. That's the other thing.
What do you mean, get your hands on the property?
Boots on the ground.
Yeah, you got to make sure, you know, the locks have been changed.
Okay.
You know, you got you can't. This is not something that you can manage from California.
Okay,
Uh,
so as long as you got feet on the ground.
you got somebody to go there. I use my cleaning people to kind of go. So when a guest moves out, I'll send one of our cleaners to clean up the room. And then while she's there, you know, what else is wrong? What else do we need to do? Change the filters while you're there.
So is each room a keyed lock? Or are they
Yes.
combination?
Yes.
They're
So
keyed locks.
yeah, so here's a tip for you. The common door has a unique code for every guest.
That's the front door walking in,
The front door walking in,
unique code.
right? So when that person gets evicted, you delete that code, they can't get back in the main door. The keys to each individual room, I find that to be annoying. It's just a regular key. You know, regular, you know, just a regular lock. When they leave, I tell them to put the key in the top drawer
Of that room.
of that room.
Yeah,
The next guest goes in, I go, where's the key? It's in the top drawer.
Oh, you don't rekey.
No,
because they can't get into the.
they
main
can't get in the
house
main door.
anyways.
And interestingly enough, the constable didn't require us to rekey it.
Wow, wow. Oh my gosh.
So maybe he was busy.
No, they must know about this. I think they know about it and they're just like, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah, so anyway, so let's show you.
Did you have to meet the constable there though?
That day I didn't. I had one of
Okay.
my
Okay.
worker
So
bees.
does that mean the tenant filed an answer and yet that's why you had to go to court?
They filed an answer.
Oh.
They had a country western song. Judge goes, interesting, but you're done.
That's good.
I was nervous because I thought for sure we'd get kicked out. Okay, here's Pad Split. I navigated to Las Vegas.
So they actually have their own website,
Yep.
PadSplit.
So the effort from a property management perspective, you don't really do a lot because they're the one that gets the members. They do all
They do all the screening.
you would upload it like you do Airbnb. You put on your photos, you do all this and that. It's actually way simpler than Airbnb. Airbnb's got 10,000 bells and whistles, right? You know, Pad Split's got 4. So this is what it looks like.
Minimum stay is
1 week.
No, a month. Remember,
A month.
we have to do the 1 month thing. Okay. So what you see here, this is real time. This is actual data. You can see that a lot of your existing pad splits are close to downtown or the strip. Now, if you click on one, it'll show you, this is what the price is, how many rooms are left. At $200, it's probably a shared bath. Whereas this one is probably your your primary with a dedicated bath.
Okay.
And did they
Who's-
have, sorry, go ahead.
Who sets those prices?
The owner.
And do they have to pay security deposits?
No.
No.
All right, no, it's like 1 week. It's like $200. It's nothing.
But that goes to PadSplit. We don't have to, as a broker, you don't have to manage that.
Correct. We
So
don't
that
have,
money's coming to the trust.
yeah, we don't have to have a trust account for that.
And so if they trash your furniture, You just kind of call it a wash. Okay, gotcha.
Pick up another bed at Craigslist, you know.
Yeah, something like that.
But actually, we've had 3 or 4 naughty guests and none of them have killed the bed or the dresser.
Okay.
So,
In 2 years, that's not bad, renting out rooms.
so this is what it looks like, you know, and you can do the math, you know, $200 a week times 4 bedrooms.
So it looks like there's even some that
Is that
are,
a fourplex?
yeah, that are part of a fourplex
But you-
or an eight.
if the HOA has a restriction.
That's probably a condo,
Oh, okay.
probably.
But you still have to abide by the HOA rules.
Of course.
right? Yeah, yeah.
But all 98% or
30
90% of those
more.
are 30-day. It's very
I've
few.
seen some that say you have to have a minimum 6-month lease.
There's very few, but they do.
But if
exist.
you're going older house, you're gonna be old HOA
yeah.
rules, so
Or
you're
no
gonna
HOA.
be fine.
If HOA at all,
If,
Yeah.
yeah, if there's even there.
So you can do multifamily too?
probably.
I like that, Picasso.
So anyway,
Wow.
so
What is the typical tenant base? I'm just curious, like, you only had a couple of.
I call them
original-
the fringes of society. Um,
Have you had some that stay for a while?
I've had one guy, it's been that first one
Mhm.
since I've managed
So
it.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
But really the trend, they are transient, so they go in and out maybe every 3-4 months.
4 or 5 months, I'd say the average.
Just like normal people, most of them?
I'm not normal.
Well, I'm just like, no security deposit, no screening, because we've had our fair share of.
They're-
tenants
they're-
who
they're-
stay
They're,
free.
they're fringes. I mean, they're people like,
Could they be
Gig
illegal?
workers or.
Would Pat Smith let them be illegal?
I don't know the answer. So.
Because we don't screen them with their.
Yeah, so Pat Split does some preliminary screening, but what they're looking for, they don't look at credit. They look at job history. And there is some opportunity to deny people. Very limited. So typically when I get, you know, Susie wants to rent a place, first question I ask her is, I actually asked her 2 questions. So this is a inside trade secret. Number 1 is, do you have a job?
That's important.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's number 1. What is that job, right? You know, so if they go, oh, I work at Amazon, like, yay. We get a lot of Uber drivers, fine. Then the next question I ask is how long they've had their cell number.
Oh, how long what?
They've had their cell number.
Oh,
They're constantly losing their phone or.
If-
No, if they're constantly not
paying
paying.
for a phone, yeah.
Well, there's
They
that,
Lose their number.
or well, they shut their number off because they're dodging somebody,
That's true.
ex-boyfriend or whatever. So anyway, I asked those 2 questions. Do you have a job and how long have you had your cell phone? And people surprisingly tell you the truth because they think that you can find
You
out.
can know. So that one, that left one is garage conversion.
Yeah.
Because I can see the AC that they put into the top part.
Right.
so have you ever had people, like, I'm just thinking of our nightmare tenant who came up with a deposit right away, moved in, and the next day had her 10 family members move in and they stopped paying and didn't leave. So have you ever had like more people move in, like 2, 3 people?
I had a hooker move in.
Oh, with one of your members?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's not a lot of places to move into.
Right.
Right.
There's a bedroom.
There's one.
The common area is no longer available.
So a kitchen and then the bedroom, so.
So they're gonna be in the
bed.
kitchen or the bedroom. So,
And did
dude,
you get complaints from the other members saying there's some?
oh, they're all snitches. This guy's smoking, this guy's doing crack.
So,
Okay,
but you don't even have to find the tenants, right? The
correct.
people go onto the website and then you just get noticed where you just have to manage it.
Susie's moving in tomorrow.
I like that.
Yeah,
He has to still get the
So is there
complaints from the.
Oh, yeah.
members.
yeah, I get, you know, every 4 days, you know,
There's
any
Nothing's
rules,
going on.
any house rules, like
It's-
no,
no biting, no
like
kicking,
no drugs?
Right.
And if,
no smoking, no drugs, all that.
Prostitution.
all that, okay.
Yeah.
That's a.
No
reason.
visitors,
Okay.
Right.
Is that under Pat Split? Did they give you that to work with? Okay.
no visitors no visitors is the biggest infraction.
Oh, no visitors?
No visitors.
And is the
there's
lease
no
under
comment.
you or the lease under Pat Split?
They're members for Pad Split.
So it's a created occupancy through pad splits form.
Right. I don't do anything with the lease.
Gotcha.
I look at it and go, what the what?
But then that's their deal.
Right.
Gotcha.
Would this be similar to crash pads? Like
I guess so. I've never heard of it.
pilots?
Never heard about that. But pilots have the opportunity to do like. a
They
little
do
price.
something similar, like they rent rooms for a couple of months so they can have their stuff if they fly back and.
I'm sure that is an alternative to Pad Split. So when I first started Pad Split, it was me and 3 other houses. Now there's 20. So that wraps it up. What time is
Hey,
it?
Jim, you're loving the more properties on pad split. You're not having any problems taking them on. If
I'll
you-
take another one on.
Yeah, if a buyer comes in and they're there, you're
Yeah,
taking on.
From a
with them.
property manager perspective, I charge more because it's more of a headache.
Right,
I charge more onboarding.
okay.
And it's from a maintenance perspective, it's about as much as a long-term rental.
Because there's things that are gonna break down.
Right.
A toilet, the same garbage disposal.
It's the same. The only difference is cleaning. So every month, send somebody in there to clean the common area.
Ooh,
Wow.
okay.
Um,
Just to make sure it doesn't get so gross.
yeah.
And does the owner pay for that?
But it's like $70.
Right.
So, but this is a good tool if you have an investor saying, hey, I want to buy a rental. Well, long-term rentals, you make about 4%. Short-term is nearly impossible. Midterms are just not advantageous.
Right.
But hey, this is another option.
This is another option. And you
I
gotta
recommend-
preface that with like,
Yeah.
you got a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You can't be it can't be a pet egg. And it needs somebody that knows what they're doing.
But I think you're gonna get a better price on the house because you're not gonna be in the places that everybody wants to be.
These are all,
So you're gonna be Sproul Home, you're gonna be over
Yeah.
by Charleston.
these are all like
and
D, E, and F
Eastern.
neighborhoods.
Of course, your plumbing's really old, so you're gonna have some issues there.
All right, that wraps it up. There's the link to it and also the QR code.
Yes, I would too.
And then and on top of that, I'll probably just send out a link to the recorded video.
That'd be great.
So get